Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala khatimi nabiyyin, wal imam al-mursaleen, habibina wa nabiyyina Muhammad ibn Abdillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. I very much dislike the idea of repeating the salam because it's not part of the sunnah to repeat the salam more than once to the same jama'ah, especially if some of them respond. The sunnah of salam is if some of them respond to the jama'ah, technically they have covered the entire jama'ah. So when speakers come in, they say, I do not hear enough people, Assalamu alaikum. Everyone says, Wa alaikum assalam. Now they made a comedy show out of a noble greeting. So you're not compelled to respond, but understand this, if you respond, you're taking the reward obviously for yourself and others as well in the jama'ah who at that moment for this season or that skipped making salam. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're distracted. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, inshallah, I'm happy to have been invited for Friday night lights here at Lake Islamic Center. As I was about to say, most of you know, some of you know, the topic for tonight, inshallah, is Imam Bukhari's life, virtues as well as benefits from his life story. His life story, alhamdulillah, is practically, it can be made into a very, very good TV series of benefit. I was about to say movies, but movies always have to be action movies in the United States, otherwise they don't really work. But TV series or a documentary series as such will be excellent because his life is so valuable. And here's the unique thing. Unlike many, many great scholars, his life is very well documented. And one of the reasons we'll discuss is that he had so many students. Do you understand Imam al-Bukhari taught Sahih al-Bukhari to over 90,000 students in his lifetime? You know, Sahih al-Bukhari is a large book, 9 to 10 volumes. He taught that to 90,000 students in a time where large cities, their population was 90,000. Therefore, the number of students he impacted, the number of people he influenced, is because that's the reason why so many people documented his life. And they were in awe of him, and they were mesmerized by his character as well as his efforts to defend the sunnah and spread the sunnah and come in the aid and rescue of hadith of Nabi alayhi as-salatu was-salam. But before we go any further, let's discuss this very quickly. Tell me, brothers and sisters, his name is Muhammad al-Bukhari, but why do we even call him al-Bukhari? He's just so famous with al-Bukhari, people didn't even know that his name is the same as the name of An-Nabi alayhi salam, his favorite person, by the way, obviously. Can anyone tell me why he's called al-Bukhari? Can you speak up, Shaykha? Where he comes from, where does he come from? Bukhara. Bukhara is a town where? Speak up. Very close, not that far, but not exactly more than Afghanistan, slightly away from, slightly east of Afghanistan. Anybody else knows where Bukhara is? It still exists today, by the way, the town of Bukhara. It's still small, just like in its time, it actually never became big. Uzbekistan, Jazakallah Khayr. Yes, modern day Uzbekistan. In those times, it was in the large tract of land called Khurasan. Khurasan was a region in which Bukhara was. So if Imam al-Bukhari today would have a passport, he would be Uzbek as a citizen. Allah yarhamhu. His name is Muhammad ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mughira ibn Bardizbah al-Ju'fi al-Bukhari. He's called al-Bukhari, as we discussed, because he is from the town of Bukhara. He's called al-Ju'fi because his great-great-grandfather Bardizbah was captured by the Muslims and the tribe of Ju'f. And his great-grandfather, Al-Mughira, accepted Islam, actually. And then his father is Ismail ibn Ibrahim, was also, like his son, dedicated to learning. In fact, his father, Ismail ibn Ibrahim, features frequently in books of hadith. And he went to study under Imam Malik in Medina and came back. But when Imam Bukhari was born, already Ismail, his father, was around 50 years of age. So Imam Bukhari was born rather late in the life of this nobleman, his father. His life is so worth of so many interesting points to mention, and so many virtuous discussions that we can have, even from the beginning of his life. As I said before, that he was born in the town of Bukhara on the 13th of Shawwal, 194 Hijri. Again, this is very unique about his life. about so many great scholars, we don't even exactly know when they were born. We know the dates of death for many great people, but not the dates of birth. Tell me why that is the case. Tell me, Akhwanna. It's a very simple answer. Think about this. In our times, we know the dates of births of every single person. It's on the ID cards, on the passport. It's on the driver's license. In those days, the dates of deaths were known, and that's how we categorize the scholars historically, not by dates of birth. Yes?
Nobody recorded the date of birth.
Yeah, but why? Tell me, why are they not recording them?
Didn't expect them to live.
Speak up. No, just say it. Maybe what you're saying is correct. He's saying did not expect them to live long, but that's the case with all mankind. Not a single person. Brothers and sisters, our Nabi and Nabi alayhi salam, we don't know for sure when his date of birth is. But in his case, inshallah, the expectation was for him to live long. No, that's not exactly the case. I'll give you a very good idea. In our times, we are obsessed with dates of birth because it become a primary marker in your identification. In those days, nobody cared. I don't care when you're born. Because your date of birth or your place of birth, which is also a very important part in our time, has no bearing on your actions. That was the case in those days. But ironically, or rather uniquely, in his life, we know when the day he was born and the month he was born, the year he was born, which is very unique. Because he came from a family that were already engaged in learning. So for something like that, for his father, who is a student of hadith, dates are important. So he recorded the date of birth of his son. And therefore it's unique. Then we know Imam Bukhari's date of birth. When he was born, he says something about himself later in life. Either he was born blind, or he became blind early on in his life, very early on, perhaps as a toddler. And he was in a situation like any other person in that day and age. Once you're blind, that's it. You'll be almost always dependent upon your relatives for sustenance, for survival, and you very likely will have an inconsequential life. Yet this man, his mother, Allah yarhamha, she begged Allah for 2 years, crying in tahajjud and day to day, begging Allah to restore the sight of her son. He says, one day I woke up and my sight was restored. And I rushed to my mother and I hugged her and we cried. It is such a valuable lesson. I want you all to take this. Yaqub alayhi salam says in the Quran to his sons, وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Do not ever lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, nobody loses hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except disbelieving people. It is part of Iman to have optimism. It is part of Iman to be positive. It is part of Iman to always look forward. This woman, we the Ummah of Muhammad are utterly, shall I say, indebted to this woman. I don't even know her name. But let's say call her Muhammad, even though he had an elder brother. But I'm going to call her Muhammad. We the Ummah of Muhammad are indebted to this woman. Perhaps if Allah had not guided her to make dua, perhaps Allah would not restore his sight. It is because of her shall I say, what's the word for it? Incessant dua that Allah restored the sight of her son. And obviously that was part of her qadr that Allah was planning to restore. But never give up hope making dua, brothers and sisters. Especially if you want something good. It is part of Allah's test for you, that He will not grant you exactly what you want immediately. Perhaps that moment is not good for you. And perhaps just like this situation, He wants you to make more dua. Every single time you make dua, that is recorded for you as an action of worship. Just imagine how much hasanat this woman gathered, just for a simple reason, begging Allah to restore the sight of her son. Imagine if he was born blind, remained blind. He would have been one of billions of Muslims, lived and died from this ummah, we never heard about them. 12 centuries later, today we are sitting talking about his life, discussing valuable lessons from it, because of an effort from his mother. This is something you'll find in lives of great men. We say behind every great man is a woman. I would say behind every great man, generally it's his mother. The same with Malik, the same with Abu Hanifa, the same with Shafi, the same with Ahmad. Allah yarham kulluhum. Look at their lives. Many of them, their fathers died, they were young, but their mothers raised them and raised them so well they became imams, leaders of al-muttaqeen, of the ummah that we talked about till this day. When he was young, by the time he turned 8, he had memorized the Quran already. And he started learning from the mashayikh of his town in Bukhara, which was customary. Young children were not necessarily sent outside the city. They usually taught inside the city is just safer, and obviously young kids need the protection as well as the company of their parents, and he did the same thing. He learned very early on, but from early on his teachers noticed something. This young man has been imbued with an outstanding memory. He just does not forget. Our scholars, one of them who's teaching a lecture, he said, I'll give you an example for you to understand how Al-Bukhari's memory were. Let's say all of you start telling me, I'm not asking you to do that, start telling me your social security numbers. That's 9 digits, isn't it? All of you tell me your social security numbers. Right now, name a social security number. Al-Bukhari, if he were sitting here, he would memorize name and social security number, hearing it once, just once. And then he will repeat it out to you in the order that you tell him. So first she tells you her name and social security number, then he does, then she, then he does. And he will do in the same order. And we'll demonstrate a story to make you understand how fantastic a memory he had. A second lesson. It is from a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives you a talent. And then He gives you the wisdom to recognize what talent you've been blessed with. And then He gives you the wisdom to utilize that talent for your benefit and the benefit of the ummah. Not every person has the capacity to sit here and speak. But we need someone to take care of lighting as well as AV. I cannot do that. Incapable. Tried multiple times, failed. Someone needs to make sure the masjid's lights are on and things are running, because Allah has blessed them with wealth. Someone has the capacity to invite others to the masjid because of friendship or family relationships. Recognize what talent Allah has blessed you with and then utilize it to better yourself as well as the ummah, like this man did. Very early on, he learned that he had an utterly fantastic mind. And by the way, the human mind, even if it's a blessed mind, is usually limited in one blessing. Either the capacity to retain information or the capacity to analyze information. I can guarantee you I don't have a retentive memory. I hope I can analyze information. But Al-Bukhari, Allah yarhamhu, both are inside this head. The ability to remember information and the ability to analyze it. Supercomputer is not sufficient to describe his memory, as I will show you and demonstrate to you how good he was with this. When he turned 15, he headed out from Bukhara towards Basra because he wants to go learn. He's 15, already old enough to decide where he wants to go learn, because he had exhausted the capacity of his town people as well as Khurasan already. It's no surprise a lot of Al-Bukhari's teachers, early teachers, later became his students. And so when he was heading towards Basra, the people of Basra heard that Muhammad ibn Ismail is coming to their town. Remember, Khurasan, Iraq, Hijaz. I'm going from east to west. Scholarship around the Muslim Ummah centers till this day and flows into and outside Hijaz, Makkah and Medina. And some major cities like Al-Qahira, as well as locations in Khurasan. Baghdad till this day has a lot of capacity of scholarship. But the idea is that the centers of Islamic learning from the time of An-Nabi alayhi salam till this day are primarily in that location. Khurasan is far east. This man was over there, he was traveling west towards Basra. He was to go learn from the scholars over there. When the town of Basra heard that Muhammad ibn Ismail is coming, the scholars and students left Basra and they came outside waiting for him, outside the town. When they saw him, they grabbed him. They swarmed around him and they started begging him, Haddathni ya Shaykh, Haddathni, give me a hadith. He said, not, later. They grabbed him, made him sit down in the desert. And he started teaching them hadith. They said when this incident happened, he did not even have facial hair. How old do you think he was? 13, 14, maybe 15. He was already so famous that in Iraq, people have heard about him and his memory and his capacity to narrate hadith and how precise he is in narrating hadith at that tender age. This also shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing him for something tremendous and outstanding from early on. When he turned 16, he decided it's time for me to make Hajj. Hajj has become fard upon me. I say this with utmost respect towards my elders, and unfortunately I am in that Jama'ah as well. Many of us have not made Hajj yet. We are delaying it for an appropriate and opportune time. And that has been the case with a lot of people throughout the Ummah whom Allah decreed for them to pass away before they can fulfill this desire. When you are in the capacity to make Hajj, do it. It's not like Umrah you can go any time of the day. It's not like you can make Umrah in Ramadan and then in February as well as in March or during Thanksgiving as well as during spring break. You can make Hajj only once a year. This man, when he turned 16, I'm ready for Hajj. He took his elder brother, his mother. By that time, his father has already passed away. They went over there to Mecca to make Hajj. When he arrived over there, he was mesmerized by the scholarship over there. This young man loves to learn. This is something, is a passion project for him, learning. This is something which truly is a sign that Allah has preferred you. Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din. If Allah desires good for you, He grants you understanding of the religion. And that only happens if you have desire to learn the religion. Brothers and sisters, the capacity to learn is at the end of the day subservient to capacity or the desire to learn. You may have the capacity to learn, but if you don't have the desire to learn, you will not learn. Generate the capacity and the desire in your heart to learn. And I advise especially the youngsters here, this is the time for you to learn. For sure, if you're in college, please make every single effort that you finish college with flying colors. And if you never had the desire to go beyond, I advise you now, go beyond. Aim for masters at least. Why not? We, the Ummah, will come to you for your advice and your help, as well as your wealth, inshallah. Because if you get masters, you will earn more. You can help others if you learn more. Not just yourself. Like this man understood early on. He stayed in Hijaz. He begged his mother, please allow me to stay in Hijaz. He's seeking permission for what? Learning. Our youngsters, they seek permission for what? Can I pay half an hour video game? Can I go meet my friend? Can I have pizza? All of these are halal, completely jaiz. But aim higher than that. Like this man, he sought his mother's permission, not demand from her. He sought his mother's permission, can I stay and learn from the scholars? And she granted him this permission. She went back with the elder brother, back to Bukhara. But he stayed over there. By the time he turned 18, he published his first book. It's called Qada al-Sahaba wa Tabi'in. He collected a lot of opinions of fatwa from the Sahaba and the Tabi'in and put them in a book. A highly complex and complicated matter. He wrote that, a book which is for high-level scholars, by the time he was 18. I cannot imagine what I was doing 18, but I can guarantee I was not thinking about writing a book on fatwa of the Sahaba. Like this man did. When he was still 18, he published At-Tariq al-Kabir. We have in our hands today. It's 9 volumes. It's a collection of biographies of all the famous scholars of hadith, from the time of the Sahaba till his time. 9 volumes is this big. You know what's interesting about this book? He wrote this book primarily from his memory. Because by that time he had memorized the biographies, the life stories of 200,000 people. That's how he was. That's how blessed his memory was. Imam Ibn Kathir said that he would look at a page and memorize it. Just once, reading it. Allah yarhamhu. When he turned 22, he went to Baghdad to study from the greatest scholar alive at that time, who is, this is the year, if he was born 194, he's 22, this is year 216. Who is the most famous Muslim on earth at that time? Year 216 Hijri. I'll give you a hint, the Mihna has just happened. Or Mihna is still ongoing at that time. The Inquisition that happened in Muslim history. Who is the most famous person at that time amongst the Muslim Ummah? His name is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. All of you should know, because this is the time which is a rather tumultuous time in Islamic history, especially in the capital city of Baghdad. And Imam Ahmad was under house arrest by that time because of his defense of the correct position of the Sunnah, and the Mu'tazili doctrine had taken over the Khilafah by that time. That's when Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari went to Baghdad. He not only learned from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he learned from people like Ali ibn Madini, Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. In fact, the last person, Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, is a great scholar himself. It is said that he knew 4 or 5 tafsir for every single ayah in the Quran from the Sahaba. And he had chains going from to Sahaba for every single ayah. There are over 6,600 ayat in the Quran. And he had 5 of 6, maybe more than that, tafsir for every single ayah. That's how luminary his teacher is. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, all of you know about his capacity and his scholarship. Yahya ibn Ma'in, Imam al-Bukhari said, I never discredited myself in front of anybody except Yahya ibn Ma'in. Sorry, not Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ali ibn al-Madini, forgive me for saying that. Ali ibn al-Madini. When Ali ibn al-Madini heard that, he said, disregard his statement, al-Bukhari has seen no one like himself. That's the teacher praising his student. You have to understand why I'm speaking about al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari became the top man in a time when learning hadith was the top vocation. Allah produced the best crop of scholars of hadith at that time. And this man is head and shoulders above all of them, by far. His opinion on an issue, especially a matter of hadith, is superservient over every other scholar, including all of his teachers and all of his students. You have to understand why he's so significant. There's a reason why he wrote his book. Let's talk about his book. His book, all of you know, called Sahih al-Bukhari. Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, the one that I praised right now, he was one giving a lecture and he said, I wish someone would compile a book only of Sahih ahadith, so that we don't have to go through this quagmire of debating which hadith, what its grade is, whether it's Sahih, whether it's Hasan, was Da'if. And his time, Hasan was not very popular anyway. Sahih or Da'if, there were 2 categories. Imam Bukhari took that lesson in his heart, in his young heart. He was only 24. He started writing this book. And by the time he turned 40, in the moonlight, in the masjid of An-Nabi alayhi salam, he compiled and finished his book. 16 years it took him. He wrote Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari, all of you know, is so valuable. The scholars frequently comment, the second most authentic book after the book of Allah is Sahih al-Bukhari. It's because Imam Bukhari was so sincere while writing this book. He dedicated himself in this one action so much, this book clearly has become the de facto reference when it comes to Sahih ahadith in the Ummah of Muhammadullah. And others also wrote great books of hadith. Ironically, all the people before him and all the people after him, their books cannot quite reach his book. It's just untouchable in this regard. Sahih al-Bukhari is so significant, I would say a more appropriate statement to say it is the most authentic book authored by human hand. Let's not necessarily compare it with the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, but it is by easily the most authentic book composed or compiled by human hand. It contains the best people narrating the best hadith of An-Nabi alayhi salam. And all the famous hadith that you've heard, I bet you can find them in Sahih al-Bukhari. Not only that, there is not a single lecture given on earth since 12 centuries by a Sunni teacher to a Sunni audience, except that they will quote ayah from the Quran and a hadith from this book. There's no escape from it. It is attached in every single thing we do. I'll give you a perfect example. When we say Islam is based on 5 pillars, that is not an ayah in the Quran. But there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari that says, Bunya al-Islamu ala khams. Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa iqam as-salah wa ita'i zakah wa hajj al-bayt wa sawm Ramadan. It's found in Sahih Bukhari. That's from this Bunya al-Islam means Islam is based on 5. That statement that we teach our children when they're that young is something come from Sahih Bukhari. The concept of what La ilaha illallah is so significant, a hadith talking about that and found in Sahih Bukhari. The idea of what will happen to you when you pass away, Multitude of ahadith talking about that in Sahih Bukhari. What will happen to you on the day of judgment? In Sahih Bukhari. How should you talk to your neighbors and your conduct up towards your neighbors? In Sahih Bukhari. How is the best way for you to conduct yourself as a businessman or businesswoman? Found Sahih Bukhari. What is the zakah on camels? Found Sahih Bukhari. How should you deal with people who come to you with adversity? In Sahih Bukhari. How to engage with enemies on the battlefield? In Sahih Bukhari. Think of a topic about religion, it's found in Sahih Bukhari. It is a most significant and proper book and something we cannot do without. And all the credit goes to this man and his efforts. When he compiled his book, listen to this, the compilation of his book is so significant. That shows his character as well as tawakkul ala Allah, his reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before he would include any single hadith in his book, he would make wudu and pray 2 rakah salatul istikhara. And he would beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him wisdom to include the book in the hadith in his book. His book has 7,256 ahadith. Yani at least 7,256 times his istikhara was positive. As for all the istikhara that was negative, we don't even know about it. How many ayat how many rakat did he perform to write this book? You tell me. 15,000 minimum just to write this book. We don't pray 15,000 rakat in a lifetime, ya ikhwanna. That includes all salawat, fard, tarawih, tahajjud, everything. This man just to dedicate sincerity in his book, 15,000 just for this book. It is said about his ibadah, listen to this. He used to finish a third of the Quran every single night. So we finished the entire Quran in 3 nights in tahajjud. But that's at night only. Because one of his students said he used to finish the entire Quran by dhuhr. Wake up and then finish the entire Quran by dhuhr. Every single time in the morning and a third of the Quran at night. Can you do more than a third of the Quran in the night? Yes. But because in his book there's a hadith from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As that says, An-Nabi advised the Sahabi, do not read more than a third of the Quran at night. So he follows that sunnah as well as more than that. I love this man, how dedicated he is to following the sunnah. Before we continue further, are there any questions about what we've discussed so far? Yes, go ahead. Very good point. Did he travel alone? Did he travel with family? Because a question obvious is, who are these supremely patient women married to men like him? This man traveled to every major and minor city of learning in his lifetime. He lived only till the age of 62. It is not unfair for me to say he was the most famous Muslim by the time he died. And consequently, the most famous human being on earth. Because Muslims were dominant around the world at that time. The largest empire was the Muslim empire when he was alive. And he was well known across the entire Muslim empire without a shadow of doubt. Every major minor city knew about Bukhari because he visited them. To say that he was a rock star is not just inappropriate, it is inadequate. He was much, much more famous than that. Allah rahamu, towards the end of his life. Did he used to travel alone? Depends on the situation. If he were to travel short distances, he will travel alone. If he were to travel long distances, very likely he might be in a caravan with other people as well. That's usually how the scholars at that time used to travel. Because the sunnah of traveling is, you should travel in a jama'ah. And the jama'ah, according to Islamic sources, is 3 people. Not necessarily 3 men, 3 people. You should at least travel with 3, especially the youngsters. If you go, even to go watch a movie or go to play ball, if you're traveling in a car, get 3 people together, inshallah. There's a hikmah behind that. Can anyone tell me what's the hikmah of having 3 people minimum in a jama'ah? Yes.
They'll hold each other accountable.
Close. Almost there. Develop their argument.
So the way I'm thinking is if they're kind of doing or thinking of doing something halal, one of them will hold the other 2 accountable.
Not really, but close enough. You need 2 people to counter the one when it comes to decision making. You cannot have jama'ah if you have 2 people because one will countermand the other. You need 2 people to gang up with the third, in a matter of speaking, or rather to break the tie. Therefore, when we say the sunnah of Nabi alayhi salatu, when you travel, at least have 3 people and select an amir or an amira if those ladies traveling. One person whom the others will follow, at least for that person. If he makes a decision, don't necessarily go against that person. طيب. Let's talk about his fantastic memory. I love this discussion. The scholar of Samarkand already knew about Muhammad Ismail al-Bukhari. He was already famous. This is when he's in his late 30s or early 40s. So he's not at the prime of his memory anymore. Arguably, his memory never ever declined till the moment he died. That's something Allah bless him as well. His memory was never ever questioned, ever. Till the moment, 62 when he died. Anyway, when he was late 30s or early 40s, the scholar of Samarkand, because he was so famous, they wanted to test his memory. They gathered 10 great scholars from Samarkand, and they had a public discourse to show people what Bukhari's capacity is. They're confident in his capacity, but they want to test him regardless. These 10 scholars, they stood in front of Bukhari and they started narrating hadith to him. This is a complex issue. Pay attention. Pay attention, you'll gather what I'm trying to say. So a hadith for Islamic studies is matan and isnad. Isnad is the chain of narrators from Nabi alayhi salam till the scholar who's narrating the hadith. And the matan is the statement itself. So what these scholars did, they intentionally mixed up the narrators. Who's the teacher, who's the sheikh, who's the student, who's the teacher, who's the student, who's the teacher, who's the student, all the way up to Bukhari. Intentionally mixed up the names in that. And then they narrate the matan correctly. The people sitting over there, what they're concerned about is the matan, because in our times, like at that time, for us hadith is what? Just the matan. For Bukhari it's not that. It's isnad and matan. That's one hadith for him. Therefore he won innamal a'malu bin niyat. He has 20 hadith for him because there are 20 different chains that come down to him with that one matan. As an example. So these 10 scholars, they mixed up the narrators and narrated matan correctly. Every single time they will mention, he will say, I'm sorry, I never heard about that. Forgive me. Those people, the jama'ah, the awam who are sitting, they think, this is Muhammad Ismail al-Bukhari. Even I've heard of this hadith. He has not heard of this hadith. He kept saying, I never heard it. Once they finished, he said, are you guys done? They said, yes. He started correcting them. You said this, and this. No, the correct chain is this and this, and this is the matan. You said this, and this. No, the correct chain is this and this, and that's the matan. He narrated all 10 hadith for all 10 people in the order. 100 hadith that he corrected from memory, just listening once. Imam Ibn Hajar said it's not important that he memorized what he heard in one sitting. What's important that he corrected everybody in one sitting, which also shows he knew every single hadith those 10 people mentioned beforehand. It is said that in his lifetime he memorized 600,000 ahadith, and he distilled it down to 7,265 ahadith in his book. That's why his book is so significant. It's only one out of about 100 hadith that he chose to enter in his book. Allah rahamhu. He was, by profession, obviously people will ask, how do you to earn a livelihood? A man like him, who does not stop traveling, how does he make money? He was a cloth merchant. He used to make money by buying and selling clothes. So once he was traveling, after having made a significant profit, and he was traveling by boat. So he informed, in a casual manner, to one of his boatmates, or shipmates I should say, that I had made a significant profit and I have 10,000 dinar with me. Literally a pot of gold. 10,000 dinar, 10,000 gold pieces, 10,000 coins of gold with me. He made a significant profit. This man had a disease in his heart. He wanted that money for himself. So he made an announcement in the boat, my 10,000 dinar have been stolen. Look at the audacity of this man. My 10,000 dinar have been stolen. The captain of the ship immediately had the entire boat searched. They did not find any money anywhere. You think this man is audacious before? Look at his audacity now and his shamelessness. He's completely shameless. He goes back to Bukhari and he says, where's the money? I know you're Bukhari, you don't lie. So where's the money? Where did you hide it? He said, not hide it. When you did your dirty trick, I took the money and threw it in the river. He said, 10,000 dinar. You threw 10,000 dinar in the river? Why? Imam Bukhari said, I have spent a lifetime defending the sunnah, cultivating the reputation of a defender of sunnah. I cannot afford to have it sullied by someone like me. Brothers and sisters, Imam Bukhari purchased, shall I say, our respect till the day of judgment with only 10,000 dinar. How many of us, we compromise our character for $5, $10, $100. Sometimes we lie for $120, $1,000. This man cannot allow anyone to ever say, even a false accusation that Bukhari stole something. He cannot even allow such a thing about his reputation. That's how much he cares what people think of him. That's how much he values his reputation. That's how much he defends it. That's how much he wants people to think he's a good person. That much. He threw 10,000 dinar in the river. Forget about the money. I am a carrier of the Sunnah. Some of you are huffaz of the Quran. Allah has blessed you to memorize the entire Quran. If not the entire Quran, half of the Quran. If not a half of the Quran, a 30th of the Quran. Is your conduct, is your character including equal to at least a 30th of the Quran? This man, like the person whom he follows, An-Nabi alayhi salam is walking Quran. That's what Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari is. His character is unbelievable. He never accused that man, never outed him to the captain, punished him, he lied, nothing of the sort. He just said, I want to defend the Sunnah and I want to protect my reputation. 12 centuries down the line, we're talking about this incident. I said 10,000 dinars is chump change. I wish I can defend my reputation with Allah knows how much more money. If I can, I'll do that. Can you purchase people's respect from the Ummah of Muhammad till the day of judgment? With any amount of money. This man, only 10,000 dinar. Nothing. He was a cloth merchant by default. One day standing at a marketplace with a booth like this, a man comes and looks at one of his merchandise, an article of clothing. I'll wait, inshallah. Let's do the next story, inshallah, after adhan is called. Once, Imam al-Bukhari was at a marketplace selling his merchandise. One of them is an article of clothing. Excuse me. A man comes and checks it out. He says, what's the price for this? Imam Bukhari said, XYZ. The man said, okay, let me think about this. I'll come back tomorrow. Imam said, no problem. He went away. Right after the man goes away, a second person comes, looks at that, offers twice for the same article of clothing. Imam Bukhari says, no, I cannot sell it to you. You know why he did that? Because the first guy expects that article of clothing to be there. That's the only reason. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. Oh, you believe? Fulfill your contracts. Fulfill people's expectations of you. Fulfill your promises to people. That man, all he said, I'll come back tomorrow, perhaps. He's not making a decision yet. Islamic finance is dictated, there's no transaction, there's no ijab and qubul. Imam Bukhari could easily sell that article of clothing to the second guy. Not only would not be sinful, that's perfectly mubah, perfectly jais for him to do so. But he held that transaction for the first guy because the first guy expects that article of clothing to be there tomorrow at half price. That's the kind of character this man is. A few days ago, I went to one of these truck places. Actually, I was with Sheikh Kamal. And we were having some meal late at night. And one of these truck places is a tea truck. They sells primarily tea and desserts and this and that. So we first stopped at this guy. And I wanted to order Kashmiri chai. Kashmiri tea is very tasty. Some of you may have tried it. It's a rather thick blend of tea. And then we said, no, let's have meal first, dinner first, then we'll have the tea. So after we had dinner, I had no desire to have any tea, completely full. And as we were about to leave, this story came to my mind. So I went back to the tea stand, just so I can buy $4 worth of tea that I do not want. Just so I can say I did something like Al-Bukhari did, fulfilling people's expectations. Alhamdulillah, he ran out of tea. So my $4 were saved. But that story reminded me immediately. That's a transaction that's not occurred yet. But he wants people to feel that if they expect something from him, he will fulfill the expectation. I advise you all to do the same. Not just promises, that you're bound by the rule of Allah Azza wa Jalla to fulfill. If you promise somebody something, unless external factors prevent you, Islamically You're required to fulfill the promise. But this man did not make a promise, just expectation. Because he has a higher standard, much higher standard, when it comes to good character. We discussed his teachers briefly. There's a very interesting number in his life. He said, I narrated from over 1,080 teachers. That number is easy to remember because maximum resolution for many TVs, I don't know about this one, but was 1080p. So that's how, when we were young, we remembered how many teachers Imam Bukhari had? 1080p. 1,080 people were his teachers because that's the resolution. That's one way to remember it. He knows the name, the biographies, the family structure, the names of the horses and the pets that people have. No exaggeration. Where they were born, where they lived, in which year they traveled, what city, when they made Hajj, and when they died. He knows all of that by heart. Allah yarhamhu. As amazing as the cadre of his teachers were, what he produced in students is even more impressive. Who are his students? Imam Muslim, Imam An-Nasai, Imam Abu Dawud, perhaps Ibn Majah as well. We call in Islamic sciences Al-Kutub Sitta, the 6 canonical books of hadith. These are the 6 from which we derive most of our religion, aside from the Quran itself. The Quran is like a sun. If a solar system example works or analogy works, the Quran is like the sun, and these 6 books are like the planets revolving around it. But the solar system needs the sun and the planet. Our religion is the solar system in this analogy. They are nothing more than planets, tiny compared to the sun, but together they form the solar system. All the famous books of hadith that we know, they came after his book, and they are from students who are his students. Among his students, someone who wrote a book almost as good as this. His name is Imam Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj al-Naysaburi. One of his students. Sahih Muslim is Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj's book. We rely upon that book almost as much as we rely upon Imam Bukhari's book. Towards the end of his life, as I said before, Imam Bukhari became very, 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 very famous. And it's no surprise, a man in his fame and his capacity is obviously a target of jealousy. Not just jealousy from average people, but jealousy from scholars. The only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put as a default in this ummah, the one thing that frequently, even the best people from this ummah, the inheritors of the Prophet, the scholars of the ummah are guilty of falling into, is jealousy. That's the one thing. I'm not saying every scholar, I'm not even saying most scholars. But one common fault you'll find in the hearts of scholars, men or even women, is jealousy of each other. Imam Bukhari frequently was a target of jealousy. And that's the case in modern times as well. The most famous du'at, go see how many people criticize them negatively on their videos on YouTube. Yasir Qadi, Umar Sulaiman, Sheikh Walid, Sheikh Kamal. People say the most hideous, ridiculous things out of jealousy. That's it. No reason. That's why scholars used to say, when you get jealous with somebody, you have shackled yourself to them till the day of judgment. It's a very adequate, very appropriate, very correct description. Because you're harboring animosity against somebody, they may not even know who you are, let alone why you have animosity or jealousy against them. And this man frequently suffered because of this throughout his life. Allah yarhamhu. That was a major fitna in his life. It culminated towards the end of his life. As I said before, by the time he turned 60 or 61, he's an old man. He's the most famous Muslim by far, easily. Very, very, very well known. More than 90,000 students have learned Sahih Bukhari from him, which means he has students as well as admirers in every major and minor city. Towards the end of his life, the people of Bukhara, they begged him, Ya Shaykh, you're coming towards the end of your life. Come live with us. We will honor you. And like any other person, especially when they get older, where do they want to retire? In their hometown. Imam Bukhari is no different. He wants to go retire in Bukhara. He's accomplished all this. He has influenced all these people. He's impacted lives and touched the lives of so many Muslims. He wants to do the same. So he went to Bukhara. One of the people foremost in welcoming him was Imam Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Dhuhali. He is also Imam of the Sunnah, someone whom we respect and admire, someone who defended and honored the Sunnah. And he was a great sheikh in Bukhara, in the absence of Al-Bukhari, until that changed. When Al-Bukhari came in, Muhammad bin Yahya's halaqah was huge. It started dwindling slowly. And the halaqah of Bukhari started increasing very quickly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Muhammad bin Yahya al-Dhuhali with jealousy towards his contemporary Muhammad bin Ismail al-Bukhari. So al-Dhuhali, with time, developed very strong jealousy towards al-Bukhari, to the extent that he would actively prohibit students who were his long-term students from attending his halaqah if he learned that they attended the halaqah of al-Bukhari. That much. One of these students is Muslim ibn Hajjaj. Imam Muslim was a great admirer as well as a student of al-Bukhari. He loved him. There's a famous statement here. He once go to Bukhari, he kissed Bukhari between the eyes. And Bukhari got very uncomfortable. He said, don't do that. He said, allow me to kiss your feet, O doctor of the errors in hadith, O master of masters. What the statement is, forgive me, let me give a correct statement. He said, allow me to kiss your feet, O teacher of teachers, master of the scholars of hadith, the doctor of hidden defects, doctor of ilal in hadith. That's how he is addressing his teacher. Muslim to Imam Bukhari. So one of the Imam Muslim's teachers is Dhuhali. One day Dhuhali learned that even Muslim ibn Hajjaj now attends Bukhari's halaqah. So when he was organizing his halaqah, Muslim ibn Hajjaj walked in. Without looking up, he said, whoever attends lectures to Muhammad al-Bukhari is not allowed to attend our lectures anymore. Imam Muslim heard that, turned around, walked back. He went home, he collected every single book, every single notebook, every single piece of paper in which he had noted down a hadith from al-Dhuhali, put them on a donkey and sent it to him. He said, there's your ilm, keep it, I don't want it. I have al-Bukhari. That's what happens with jealousy, brothers and sisters. The only person you truly hurt is yourself. Yani, look at the situation. This noble Imam al-Dhuhali, we don't talk about his biography, but we talk about him, this noble, pious individual. The one thing he's remembered for is the one who hurt Bukhari and the one who kicked out Muslim from his halaqah. That's the ill effect of jealousy, brothers and sisters. One thing you cannot escape when you become famous is jealousy. It's the worst price to pay for shuhra. It's not worth it. So many noble scholars, they did not become famous, even though the people closest to them knew they're better than so and so. And by the way, such people exist all around us. Knowledgeable and pious, they don't want the fame because they know it will corrupt their heart, and worse, they will be targeted because of their jealousy, because of other people's jealousy towards them, like this man was. So people stopped attending al-Bukhari's halaqah because al-Dhuhali does not want that in the town of Bukhara. The town of Bukhara is small, al-Dhuhali has a considerable influence over that. Did it stop over there? No. Worst thing in the life of Imam Bukhari, Allah yarhamhu. The governor of Bukhara, like any governor or most governors across human history, was a very foolish man. Full of pride, zero knowledge. When he heard al-Bukhari is retired in the town, he sent a letter to al-Bukhari saying, I would like for you to give private lessons to my two sons in the palace. Al-Bukhari said, I do not lower ilm for anybody. Your sons are more than welcome to come attend halaqah in the masjid. It's over there. I'm not prohibiting anybody. Come inshallah, learn. The governor got incensed by that. He made life very difficult for al-Bukhari, Allah yarhamhu. To the extent that his neighbors, his close friends, when al-Bukhari will come visit them, they will shut the door in his face. One more time, in the face of al-Bukhari, the most famous Muslim, the most well-known Muslim, for his piety, for his knowledge, for his wisdom, for his husnul khuluq. They would not want to talk to him because they don't want to anger the governor. To the extent his life became so miserable, Allah yarhamhu, that he had to go wait outside the city of Bukhara, outside the gates, waiting for permission to come outside, to come inside. When the situation became that hard, he remembered a dua in his own Sahih. And Nabi ﷺ said, no Muslim should ever wish for death But if things become too difficult, you should make dua. Oh Allah, as vast as this earth is that you've made, it has become constricted for me. So I ask you to call me back to you. Imam Bukhari made this dua. And Allah decreed on the day of Eid, 256 Hijri, he passed away. Waiting for permission to enter Bukhara. He could have been living anywhere on earth. He just wants to retire in his hometown. He passed away outside the town. Allah yarhamhu. The final lesson from this, even at the moment of your death, brothers and sisters, Allah may test you. Shaykh Ibrahim recited, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Just because people say we believe, they will not be tested? The people who have the strongest iman are tested the most. We know this from the hadith of Nabi alayhi salam. And this man was severely tested till the moment of his death. We ask Allah to make us among those people who follow in the footsteps of Al-Bukhari in nobility, in piety, in worship, in defense of the Sunnah, and in our character towards our fellow man. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to imitate the character of Imam Bukhari's hero, and our Nabi, An-Nabi alayhi salam, the one for whose sake Imam Bukhari dedicated his life. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we die with La ilaha illallah upon our lips. Jazakumullah khairan, brothers and sisters. Are there any questions about what we've discussed so far? Yes, go for it.
So they didn't record when people were born. How did you know that Bukhari?
As I said before, because his father was also a student of hadith. And students of hadith are obsessed with dates of death. I know the dates of death of over 200 scholars. I'm not bragging, just letting you know. And I don't know the date of death of either of my grandfathers or grandmothers for that matter.
If you don't know their date of death.
Roughly speaking, we know ages for most of them, roughly speaking. Therefore, At-Tirmidhi, from his own qawl, there are 3 dates of birth for him. So we think At-Tirmidhi was either 70, 69 or 62. You can say that Tirmidhi got confused. No, his students got confused when they related throughout the centuries his date of birth. Some say he was born in the year 209, some say 2010, and some say 216 or something like that. We know when he passed away at Tirmidhi, 290. But when it comes to his, 279. But when it comes to his date of birth, we're not sure. Therefore, Al-Bukhari we know for a fact because his father jotted it down. Other scholars have mentioned also, I was born on this day and this day and so on and so forth. So we know that dates of birth. But dates of birth, generally speaking, we do not know. Dates of death, we know very well, mashallah. Any other question about what we discussed so far about the life of Imam Al-Bukhari? Allah yarhamhu. If there are no other questions, clearly, I got the message from Kahari. Yes, go for it. Can you speak up? I still cannot hear. Family, then what do you say? Oh, very common questions asked about the lives of famous, especially famous men, is in the Muslim Ummah. What about their wives and children? What about them? Frankly speaking, there are 2 reasons why the scholars not record biographies of their family. One is obviously privacy. 2, I don't know the names of your wife or your children, do I? I am friends with many of you, very close friends. I don't know the names of your wives and children. 1 is a matter of privacy. 2, I'll be blunt with you, I don't care. The same goes for scholars. Why would they record the name of the wife of Al-Bukhari or his children if they did not participate in scholarship? That's the whole point. Yes, he was married. Yes, he had children. I do not know how many children he had. I certainly do not know their names. Very famous scholars, some of them, we know their children, the names of the children. For example, Imam Ahmad, we know all of his children. All 5 of them became scholars. But others we do not know. But with that, inshallah, we'll end. I'll be available for questions, inshallah, after salah. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.